Okay, hi everyone. It's now U.S. foreign policy time, and uh, uh, and so we have a debate today. So we have to make sure we have enough time for the debate, and that means at least half an hour. On to South Koreans, the global rise of social media has significantly increased the impact of human rights issues in shaping U.S. and Republic of Korea foreign policy. Hooray! And all right, so. We are focused on communication and for week 8, and I think we pretty much covered the content of what was in week 8, the impact of mass communications, and I have to make sure I screen save and show you here the notes, and so the news media is changing every day, it seems, as a consequence of the development of technology. So lots of different sources of news. The textbook emphasizes some of the more reputable sources of news, but we're seeing public opinion being affected by more than just these more established sources of news. Breitbart is probably the most well-known of the hard right-wing nationalist news sources, but thanks to social media, there's an infinite number of news sources for American people. And we talked about how at the last class, people tend to, not everybody, but people tend to search out news sources that confirm what they already want to believe because it is emotionally satisfying, even if people tend to deny that. And because of the complexity and fear of the policymaking process, a lot of people are drawn to conspiracy theories, conspiratorial portrayals of the world, that the world is controlled by the Jews or the Freemasons or George Soros or QAnon, different groups. And people are drawn to that because they want to feel emotionally secure. People are driven, not everybody, but disproportionately so, people are driven by their emotions rather than their intellect. And this focus on conspiracy theories and conspiracy thinking has been reinforced with social media, because you can always find someone who says something that you want to believe or that I want to believe, because I enjoy believing it, to be quite blunt about it. And so, and Donald Trump has built his entire political movement very much on this appeal to people's conspiracy theory thinking, particularly people who belong to the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant core group of the American public, that are increasingly seeing themselves as under threat from a changing America. So if I go to go back to the notes and share screen. And I think I might have shown these notes in another class, if not in this class. See, is that the notes? Yeah, this notion of core group. All societies or states have a cultural group that founded that state, or is perceived as founding the establishment of that state, in terms of a cultural core in-group that, or I have to remember to do it before we go further, because I'll forget to do attendance. Yes, attendance. So we go to Cyber Campus, and let me go to attendance and get these blocks out of the way here that are obstructing everything. And we go here, Cyber Campus, and we go to log in, and we go to close that, American foreign policy, attendance. And I'm going to want to try to get to the screen so you can see what I'm doing here. And week 10, add, ready, set, go. The number is 991 for U.S. foreign policy. Hooray, 991. And I'll just let that run and go back to what I was talking about earlier. So states have a cultural group that dominates the state, that tends to dominate the state. Typically, it's not hard to figure out what cultural core group is dominating the state, at least in Europe, for example. What is the cultural group of people that dominate the state of France? Well, it's the Republic of France, so probably the French cultural group. So in those societies, in those kinds of states, you know from the name on whose behalf, as a national ethno-cultural group, the state was formed. The Republic of Bulgaria is for the Bulgarians, right? The Republic of Romania is for the Romanians. The Republic of Germany is for the Germans. France is for the French. And in those societies in which nationalism is based upon cultural groups, perceived cultural groups and differences between in-group and out-group, yeah, that's often the case. But what is the cultural group that's the core group of Switzerland? It's hard to say, because Switzerland is a number of different ethnic groups. Or what is the cultural group that is the core culture group of the United States? And that core cultural group is typically the core cultural group that dominates the state. Typically, it's the group that dominates and still controls the state. And in the United States, we call that core cultural group the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. The white Anglo-Saxon Protestants founded the United States, coming from Great Britain, bringing African Americans over as enslaved people. And so the African Americans and indigenous populations were there in America, but they were not citizens. They were not part of the state. And so that is the core group in the United States. And it is into that group, we call that, let's call that group the group B, right? That group will continue to dominate the state, and it will implicitly set the standards for appropriate, inappropriate social behavior by the rest of the society. And they will tend to set the standards and assume unconsciously, typically, that that's obvious. So it's obvious that America is a society founded by, from the point of view of a Trump supporter, a Trump militant supporter, Judeo-Christians. White Judeo-Christians founded the United States. That is the foundation of the United States. That's traditional American culture, and that traditional American culture is to be valued. All states, including France or even Poland or Japan, have minorities within them, minority groups within them. And those different groups will tend to be stereotyped by the core group according to their relative position collectively in regard to the core group in terms of status and prestige that they have achieved in society. So groups that are more advanced or have developed further in terms of aggregating power and wealth and influence in society, they will be like, for example, Jewish Americans. They're only 3.5% of the population in the United States, but Jewish Americans are disproportionately higher income, higher educated, high achieving, for a number of reasons that, you know, I don't really want to go into here, although I've gone into it under other classes. And they will be stereotyped by the core in terms of envy. They'll be viewed with envy, and they will be stereotyped in a negative way, differently than how Americans stereotype Black people, African Americans, indigenous Americans, Gypsies in Bulgaria, Kurds in Turkey and Iran will be stereotyped as backward and lazy in terms of the so-called childlike or backward groups. Whereas Jews will be stereotyped according, for example, we talked about in other classes, the Jewish stereotype, the anti-Semitic stereotype, that these people are pushy and aggressive. They are stereotyped as only concerned about money, and they're only loyal to themselves. They're not loyal, necessarily loyal to the core group and to the state that the core group dominates. It's a stereotype. I'm not saying it's true, it's a stereotype. And you see this orientation happening, this predisposition happening around the world. And again, like I said earlier, you can't understand public opinion unless you understand nationalism. And insofar as the media and the news media is driven by particularly for-profit incentives, you've got to satisfy people's emotional and identity needs in order for them to favor your news product. And now with social media, there being basically an infinite number of sources of news product, these people can find somebody who portrays the world in ways that they understand in stereotypical terms, right? So particularly as this core group, this is the group into which people assimilate. This white Anglo-Saxon Protestant core group is the group into which people assimilate. So we call that core. We call the A group here Jewish Americans, Asian Americans generally, although not all Asian Americans, but Korean, East Asian Americans, Korean Americans, Japanese Americans, Chinese Americans. They also tend to be a high achieving group, and their situation can be particularly dangerous, given the fact that Asian Americans, particularly Chinese Americans, might be associated with China as an emerging challenge to American hegemony. And now the United States is changing due to immigration, and Donald Trump has exploited that immigration issue so that by the middle of this century, projections are that the majority of the population of the United States will no longer be European American, will no longer be European American, people from Europe that assimilated into the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant in-group, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant core group, including like me, right? My father came from Italy to the United States in 1960. He came because of poverty. He was poor. He came to the U.S. He was committed to staying in the U.S. He married my mother, and I'm, I don't even speak Italian, so I'm pretty much assimilated into the core group as a European American, and that's true with German Americans, Irish Americans, Italian Americans, everybody that came after the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants from Britain. Who we stereotype as white today. Jewish Americans are assimilating into this group as well today. And the indicators of that are intermarriage rates between Jews and non-Jews, for example. I'm assimilated as well. My father's Italian. He married a English German working class woman. And like I said, I mean, he wouldn't even speak Italian when I was growing up. So, but the point is that there's been a lot more immigration in the United States from Mexico, from Latin America, so that Hispanics, for example, are over 15% of the population. African Americans are 12% of the population. Asian Americans are the most rapid growing minority group in the United States. I think they're up to 4 or 5%, and other groups are coming in as well. And this has caused a change in America and a change in the laws in the United States to protect the rights and interests of these groups like African Americans and indigenous Americans, Indians, who are traditionally stereotyped as backward, and Hispanics and others as well. And these right-wing group news outlets that we were highlighting or discussing in these classes, like Breitbart, for example, Breitbart has played heavily with this concern about changing the United States and how it is a threat to American values, American principles, that African Americans, Hispanic Americans are in favor of socialism. They want more government welfare programs that will tax Americans and take their money, thinking of particularly of white Americans, to redistribute those resources in the form of welfare policies to poor people. And that is a redistributive policy that the core culture group and their outlets like Breitbart highlight as being a source of threat to these so-called traditional American values that these people represent. And points I make, you can't understand politics unless you understand the role of emotion, and you can't understand the role of emotion unless you understand the role of identity in social interaction. And stereotypes that have predominated as of these groups, and to a lesser extent of these groups, but as these groups are growing in size in the United States, so that, as I said, by the middle of this century, these groups know that European Americans are not going to be a majority. Having said that, this last election that we just highlighted, how a disproportionate, surprising number of Hispanic Americans have voted for Donald Trump, much significantly more than were predicted in the most recent elections 2 days ago. And it may be an indicator that among a lot of Hispanic Americans, and to a lesser extent, but also among African Americans, there is this assimilation, at least this desire to assimilate towards the core. So, I mean, and there's precedent for that. I mean, 120 years ago, Italian Americans, Greek Americans, Portuguese Americans were not considered white. Eastern Europeans, Catholic, were not considered white people. Italians were not considered white at the turn of the 20th century. Today they are. And something similar might be happening with Hispanic Americans, particularly more European Hispanic Americans coming from Cuba and other areas that have less racial, that appear more European in their phenotypical appearance than immigrants from Mexico, where there's clearly a stronger phenotypical indigenous Aboriginal American influence in their features. Cuban Americans are notoriously right-wing as a group, not all of them, and they dominate Florida politics. And so as we discussed the role of ethnic lobby groups and diasporas and ethnic lobbies, Donald Trump's foreign policy towards Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua has been heavily shaped by the desire to win the votes of conservative Hispanic Americans in Florida, concentrated in southern Florida, which is where anti-Castro Cubans live, anti-Maduro Venezuelans live, anti-Sandinista Nicaraguans have motivated. So southern Florida is the capital of right-wing conservative, anti-socialist Hispanic Americans, and they're heavily Republican. And Donald Trump succeeded in winning their votes and to win Florida in the American presidential election 3 days ago by appealing. Part of the formula was appealing to those groups successfully, even though Florida is a very large and very diverse state with a high percentage of other Hispanic Americans and Black Americans and other Caribbean peoples, like from Haiti, coming to America, often settle in Florida. And so these groups will be stereotyped negatively. We talk about the anti-Semitic stereotype. These groups will tend to be stereotyped as childlike. They're lazy. In other words, they don't like to work. They want socialism. They want to take my money and give it to them because they don't want to work for their own money. That's the stereotype. And these media sources emerge to satisfy those emotional desires for self-confirmation. You know, I don't want to change what I believe, that I may have been taught by my parents at the time I was a young age that Black people are lazy and avoid them. And I want somebody to tell me what I want to believe is the truth. And that is a consequence, and the social media has intensified that feasibility, I think. What are the core groups of some other countries? In Mexico, the core group is Mestizo, which is mixed European, Indian American. In Argentina, the core group is Italian. They speak Spanish with an Italian accent in Argentina and Chile. Brazil, what's the core cultural group? Portuguese, right? Even though, of course, majority of Brazilians have some African or indigenous American lineage. Still, the ideal is, you know, people that could come straight out of Portugal. I mean, when you look at the leaders of Brazilian politics, Bolsonaro, I mean, he's whiter than I am, basically, the president of Brazil. In Israel, the Ashkenazi Jews are the core group, into which group other minorities, European Jews, into which other groups assimilate. Under South Africa, before apartheid ended, it was the Boers, the Afrikaner people in Africa and South Africa. And that has changed, of course, now that the democracy has come to South Africa, and they're only, like, the white people are only self-identified white people are only 30% of the population. In the old USSR, the core group was Russia, even though it was officially a union of Soviet Socialist republics, and so on. So, media plays a role in terms of appealing to this increasing fear in the United States of the diversification of the United States and the desire to promote American influence in areas where this white Anglo-Saxon Protestants have a strong affiliation with their evangelical Christian identity to support Israel. That pretty much is a very strong influence of the role of social media in amplifying and intensifying those nationalistic tendencies and polarizations in American society. Even if Donald Trump is no longer president on January 20th, he's not going anywhere. His party did much better than was predicted and many public opinion polls in the elections 3 days ago, to show you the power of the enthusiasm of these people, because these people tend to be more highly motivated than these people in terms of their participation in American politics, because they see themselves as under threat, and they represent what they think made America great, and Donald Trump will make America great again. So, as I said, identity and emotion in social interaction are critically important for understanding politics and foreign policy. Okay, and so that's a summary. This is taken from Milton Gordon, and Milton Gordon, see if I can find the book that summarizes these points that I've been covering here. If I can find it without wasting too much time in my computer here. This notion of core group comes from Milton Gordon, and you can find it here in the library. This notion of core groups, assimilation in American life, the role of race, religion, and national origins. It's an old book, but it's still in publication, which means it's really important. The role of race, religion, and national origins in the United States in terms of assimilation. And another book that I would like to get, but I can't find it because it doesn't appear to be in publication, and I can't even get it mailed here because of the because it's not in publication. But this highlights the relationship of race to class in America, human nature, class, and ethnicity. And as I mentioned, just to make sure I show this this book. Another book by Milton Gordon. So just to show you that that's where I'm getting this theoretical framework from. And, you know, you find the stereotype, for example, also in the Middle East towards Armenian Americans. They're stereotyped in the Middle East and Turkey, and the fighting going on now in the Caucasus. Armenians are typically stereotyped in this position, that they're subject to anti-Semitic stereotype. Chinese Americans in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, and of course there's a potential for genocide against these people, because they're not seen as loyal. They're suspected as, or stereotyped as, not being loyal to the state in times of war, and that they are being manipulated by outside enemies to undermine the state. So they can be subject to genocidal attacks, as have Chinese in Indonesia, Armenians in the Turkish Empire, Jews in Europe, Indians in East Africa under Idi Amin in Uganda, who tend to dominate the middle class, who tend to dominate business class in Uganda and Eastern Africa, and so on. Okay, so all right, so we should probably go to the debate here, and I have to keep sharing screen as I shift back and forth between these screens here. So that's not the one I wanted. Once more time, stop share and see share screen, and we go to here. We should go here, and let's see if I can find. Okay, and those are the notes. All right, so Ho-Young Park is going to be pro on two South Koreans. The global rise of social media significantly increased the impact of human rights issues in shaping U.S. and ROK foreign policy against Jung Sung-hyun. And I need to make sure, maybe I need to make sure that I first allow for multiple participants can share screen simultaneously. So now you can all share the screen if you are going to share the screen, if you have PowerPoint presentations to present. And I want to make sure, did I? Okay, yeah, everybody's in the classroom. Okay, so, all right, so I'm not in the debate, so I can keep time. And hopefully we'll also have time for extra credit questions. So back to the debate topic. And there you see Ho-Young Park. So Ho-Young, do you have anything to share on the screen?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, you can begin.
Okay. Okay, everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I will start. Globalization, accelerated by the internet revolution in late 20th centuries, linked national and regional market into a single world economy. The states have expanded the cooperation between them in various fields, not only economics, but also politics and security. Globalization also affected individuals' life. One representative example is social media. Social media has made globalization permanent life of individuals naturally, beyond one learning more, which transmitted to the American public through the traditional media in the past. Now, no matter where you are or what happened around the world, you can get any information you want. Also, you can freely express your thought on that. It has also become possible for individuals, not the government, not the government to expert no, to experience through action. These changes have increased the number and scale of cross-border problems, while at the same time making individuals and group stakeholders as participants in foreign policy. The boundaries of domestic and foreign policy concerns have also gradually blurred and complicated. This leads government this leads government authorities to focus on the role of public and a private actor in the process of foreign policies. In the 21st century, it has become natural for politicians to use public and the public which used to judge policy only the press only by the press and government announcements in the past is now actively collecting information, making independent and direct judgment and become more active in politics. For example, New Jersey, which used Facebook Live to deliver information on the crisis to citizens in the recent corona crisis, and President Trump, who communicated with the public through his Twitter account, not traditional media. Social media has also led to gather public influence in many fields by gathering people's interest in various issues. Unlike the public in the past who could not get much information on either domestic and foreign situation due to lack of channel, the current public lives in a sea of information that is rife with numerous views and opinions through abundant channels. In it, the public chooses information that suit their taste and express their opinions through social media. The popular or influential public in certain area of the word is often referred to as an influencer. People in modern society are heavily affected by influencer in relation to their favorite area. Their information can create new trend and create public opinion on certain issue. Recently, these influencers have tend to actively express their opinion on various domestic and international issues in their own way on social media. Critics can say that influencers are only in for publicity and money. However, I believe in the result of their action. Human rights are one of the most fluently used issues they bring up. The more violent and provocative people can easily emphasize, become emotional, and pay attention more, as many human rights issues tend to be of this nature. Influencers' comments generally work successfully to increase public interest, regardless of perceived intention, and further to induce positive collective action to resolve issue. Also, their collective action means that there is a considerable amount of public opinion on the issues. So it is enough pressure to urge the governments to take relevant actions. That's it.
Okay, please turn on your video. Everybody who's participating in the debates, please turn on your video, okay? Okay, so, and All right, so before we take questions, let's let the next person in the debate, Jung Sung Hyun, you are next. Do you have anything to share on the?
No, sir.
Okay, turn on your video.
Yeah. You see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We can't see you.
But really, I turned on the video though.
There. Okay, now we see you.
Ah, okay.
Now we can't.
Oh shoot. 야, 효령아, 네가 날 찍을래?
Okay, now you're okay.
Sir, it's like our we are in the classroom and there's like technical problems, so I will show him.
Okay, if you can't show
So,
your
like-
video, then you don't have to.
Okay. So, I'll cut to the chase. There definitely has been positives from social media in increasing the impact of human rights issues. The book raises a few examples, such as relief efforts in Haiti, crises in the Gaza Strip, and even the impact of traditional media in the Vietnam War. Mass media informs people of pressing matters that need to be addressed. That is, however, a self-serving viewpoint of social media's impact on human rights issues. To be frank, with the strength of social media, not so pleasant people have been granted audience to share and spread their views, and then inspiring others to also share them. Before addressing those influencers, I would like to first talk about the recipients of their information. First off, people are interested in information that has relevance to them. People aren't as interested in foreign news than they are to local news. Not only that, people show more preference to information that they agree with. This is especially problematic because of the rise of niche media. Back in the day, people weren't exactly spoiled for choice when it came to consuming media. But as technology advanced, so did the method and volume of media available to be consumed. Now, practically everyone has a smartphone and can access anything, anywhere, at any time. In other words, people are now capable of selectively consuming information that fulfills their biases and agendas. Facebook recorded 2.3 billion monthly users in 2018. With so many people, you can't be surprised that less savvy folk use this medium as a tool to spread their thoughts. The First Amendment of the Constitution protects freedom of speech and the press, giving the little man strength to surveil and at times go against the government. But like all things in life, good intentions carry side effects. In freedom of speech, the freedom to speak about anything was granted, meaning that in their logic, far-rightist, gun-toting, evangelical, white, all-American folk are granted to speak their thoughts in the name of the Constitution and being American. The liberty to express your thoughts would have not been so hazardous way back when individual actions did not get much traction. Now, anybody with an opinion can voice their thoughts to a vast audience. And as people are susceptible to confirmation bias, those targeted people will be drawn like a buck to a light. Trump's support to far-right conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones has been well documented. He slammed the media for hounding out people like Jones. But what Jones, Bongino, Fox News, and other influencers are doing is feeding the fuel to the fire that is America. The US has not been this divided since the 60s, where there were activists and conspirators everywhere. People fought for peace in Vietnam and civil rights for all, but they face huge backlashes from the opposition. Rightist media labeling them as hippies or more offensive terms that go against the American way. But what is the American way? Is it to be proud boys that stomp on minorities and the less fortunate? Is it to alien and prosecute those that call themselves Americans, all because of a biased, broken system? The world and America seems to have gone backwards. People are angry. People feel insecure. What social media has done is give those insecure people validation, confirmation that their views are right. Immigrants are leeches that feed off the white man. Minorities are dangerous and they should be punished for their actions. It is within your constitutional right to bear arms and kill anyone that you deem dangerous. And that Trump is a knight in shining fake tan armor that's protecting your white all-American life. He called a white supremacist terrorist group, Proud Boys, to quote, stand down and stand by. What does he mean by stand by? His refusal to denounce white supremacists show what's wrong with America. With him in office and the 2020 election being so tight, it shows to a lot of frustrated white demographic that they are lost just like you, so your views must be correct. I did my 2 years mandatory military service as a KATUSA, meaning Korean augmentation to the United States Army. So I worked alongside US soldiers. So believe me when I say there are a lot of people that back Trump. One GI constantly uploads and retweets far right white agenda for all to see. And the response that he gets is unbelievable. There are people that logically rebut him, some shun him, but there are far more people cheering for him and attacking those that disagree. It is absolutely shocking how much traction his social media pages get. And when I see the influence that he follows, it is legitimately revolting what is posted there. Social media certainly helps some human rights issues by raising awareness and giving the ordinary man who otherwise be drowned out the voice. The Black Lives Matter campaign, Azerbaijan's belligerence towards Armenia, Uyghur concentration camps in China, etc., all have been exposed and given the attention that they deserve. But on the other hand, there are people that spew venomous words to ratify and further their agenda. It seems that we haven't gone forwards. Rather, we stagnated or even regress as a society because of the hate that is spread by social media. Thank you.
Questions? Anybody have an extra credit question to ask pro or con at this time? Anyone? Anyone? You don't have to ask it now. We still have a few minutes before we go to the end. So anybody, remember, we'll have time for asking questions. So if there are no questions now, we'll let Horyong rebut. Horyong?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
And can you see me?
No.
No? Because we turn on the computer on
Okay,
classroom.
now I can see you.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. So I will start reboot. As mentioned in my first statement and mentioned by Kant, it is true that the people consume information that suit their taste in the overflowing information. Social media has strengthened this personal tendency to consume information and sometimes even has been used on a negative means of strengthened bias. Freedom of expression has the right to speak to all Americans on any issues, forming a collective opinion in the wrong direction as concept. The numerous supporters seen that at Trump rallies and those who gathered around the White House armed ahead of the presidential election were our negative results stemming from this freedom of expression. However, there are also plenty of positive results from social media. For example, I could see the US presidential election result table in my room in Seoul from the moment it started until this morning. And I even had a conversation with my friend while the changing situation in the US while checking the result in real time. In addition, it would have been difficult without social media for those who acted with comfort and support even though it was not related to them, such as the interest shown by people around the world during the Haiti and the East Japan earthquake, also the recent suppression of human rights in Xinjiang Uyghur region. In a world where people live, nothing is entirely positive or completely negative. Even before social media appeared, information was delivered to by public through traditional media and was delivered differently depending on the perspective of the media company or reporters. The public also collect and accepted information through traditional media that fit to them. There were also problems in the past due to the lack of diversity in the diversity in the media and perspective. If there is a bright side in the world of human being, it is naturally that I think it is naturally that is a dark side also. It's just that we're now spending a traditional period of time to take a step further in the channel of social media that is gradually changing in various ways. What if the US introduced regulations to eliminate negative aspects of social media? Regarding freedom of the press, Thomas Jefferson insists that were it left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspaper or newspaper without a government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the later. Such Jefferson words have recently proved to be the right choice in the way the Chinese government responds to social media.
Time.
As can be seen in recent China's case, even if the US regulations are a very minor change compared to the China, the value of freedom that the US has so far valued above all else will be undermined in any way. That's it.
Okay, Khan will now rebut and conclude.
Professor, I cannot hear you.
No, I heard you. Should I go on?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to first start by saying that I agree with what social media did for us. It is a wonderful platform where our footprints grow far beyond they physically could. I can talk to someone I know or someone on the other side of the world. I can learn different cultures, what French people like, what Japanese people don't like. Used the correct way, social media is a great tool. But you know what else is a great tool? Nuclear fission. It's either an energy source that makes our lives better, or it's a weapon of mass destruction that can destroy society. I agree that social network services promote communication, but you also got to think about what kind of communication it promotes. Of course, for the most part, it is an ordinary positive dialogue. As Pro and I said, there are significant movements that caught traction thanks to social media. Even environmental problems get addressed. I remember that there was a fad where you take a picture of a messy area, and after cleaning it up, you take another picture showing your effort. But there's a significant portion that talks about politically incorrect topics. I don't have the exact numbers to show the magnitude, but I'm sure the 67 million people that vote for Trump speaks for itself. Those people have their backwards view on society validated by so-called experts and the president himself. No mass protests, threatening minorities so they don't vote, attacking department buildings are just a few on the laundry list of what Alex Jones, Bongino, Fox News, and other far-righters spew to their target audience. And they eat that up. They think that they're smart because they go against the grain. Once again, that influencer GI soldier that I know sincerely believes that what he speaks is truth, and that what the sensible person regards is to be true is just liberal propaganda. I can talk about what and his cohorts think about liberals. They think that they are baby killers for supporting abortion. Or I can also talk about what they think about vaccines and science. It's endless. The main reason this disgusting cesspool of hate and ignorance is still alive is because the medium which they use to transmit is still alive. Free speech and press is great, but emotions and agendas get mixed into it. And that happens, someone has to draw a line. Pro also said that social media can pressure the government by creating public opinion. I keep coming back to this, but look who was seated in the Oval Office for the last few years. Trump, though I hate to admit it, he is a genius. He is funny, but he isn't a fool. He is a master at PR. His campaigns were based on the exploitation of the American spirit. And believe me, Americans love America. And who can blame them? America has been the most powerful nation in the world financially and militarily. It toppled two evil empires and is in the forefront of democracy and civil rights. Though nowadays that just kind of sounds like sarcasm. Anyways, Trump knows his target demographic. Fox News, Alex Jones, and other influencers know exactly what they're doing. They all have a certain agenda to push, and social media is the perfect stage to do so. It is accessible to anyone, meaning anyone can speak and anyone can listen. The most deadly combo for angry, insecure people. I want to finish my statement by addressing what Ms. Parker said about censorship. I do not believe in censorship. That would be like burning down your house to catch a cockroach. She is right. And those far rightists are right. Censorship is unconstitutional and it's absolutely not the solution. What I want to say is businesses and suppliers of social media should be held accountable. But there is no correct answer to this situation though. SNS providers checking and blocking nefarious content is censorship. But businesses irresponsibly turning away from toxic content all for ad revenue has to be addressed. Speech should be free, but some should not really be as free as others. But then they can always say, what is correct speech? What kind of speech can be free? I would say use common sense. I commend far rightists, you know? They question everything. They're smart. I mean, like, no one should just outright trust everything. But use common sense. Like, is this man with a darker complexion a person? If yes, treat him like a person. There's a pandemic outside. It's going rampant. Masks are uncomfortable, but there are reports of death coming in every day. Even though I'm not sick, maybe other people are. This book was penned centuries ago. Does it still hold up? Stuff like that. I guess what I want to say is the most important thing is proper education. There's this film called American History X. It's pretty fantastic, but I wouldn't really recommend it to the faint of heart. But this movie best illustrates how racism gets passed down or acquired, and the dangers of emotions to a brittle soul. No matter how bright you are, the wrong environment will corrupt and contaminate people. To prevent such, education and exposure to the world is the only way to solve this issue. This goes way beyond social media. This is a people's question, but yeah, and that'll be it. Thank you. Um, I'm, I'm done. I can't hear you, sir.
Oh. Okay, yes, Horion, you go.
Okay. I agree that Trump is a genius, although he sometimes make incomprehensible acts. It's clear that he is a man who knows exactly what the target group that supports him and how to keep them on their side. But if the political influence of social media had not expanded, could Trump have been able to communicate with the public in the same way as he do now and his supporters? The influence of social media in our life is no longer an undeniable fact. But as Khan said, social media plays as many negative roles as positive ones. Therefore, in the end, individuals who are users of social media should try to use it in the right way. They must recognize that their freedom violates others' freedom, and that their rash actions can pose a threat to others. As this small change builds up, social media could lead to a continued expansion of idea good influence, in which the government collects such opinion and takes appropriate international action, and those who really need help get help. So that's what I thought.
Okay, and so who won the debate? Vote. Thirty seconds. Ten seconds. Grade the debate. Twenty seconds. Okay, that's it for today then. And any questions? If not, I will post these recordings on the website. Bye.
Professor,
Yeah.
I have a personal question.
Uh-huh.
So this week, Monday, I couldn't get the attendance right through Cyber Campus, but I was on through Zoom.
Okay, so send me an email, okay? Send me an email, okay?
I sent the email, but you didn't give me a reply.
Oh, okay, I'll check again. Bye.
Okay, bye.